Leadership Unpacked. I'm Hannah Halley, and today we're diving into the fascinating world of decision-making and risk management. Every leader faces decisions daily, some small and routine, others high stakes with significant risks. The pressure to make the right choice can feel overwhelming, especially when the consequences impact your team, your business, or your customers. Today, we'll explore insights from Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, which unpacks the biases that influence our decisions and offers strategies for making more rational choices. We'll look at examples from Amazon, Intuit, and a small business, each demonstrating how to balance intuition with analysis and evaluate risks effectively. By the end of this episode, you'll have tools to approach decision-making with clarity and confidence, even under uncertainty. To kick things off, let's talk about how we make decisions. In Thinking Fast and Slow, Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman explains that we have two different systems in our minds that shape our decision-making, System 1 and System 2. System 1 is fast, automatic, and intuitive. It's the part of our brain that helps us make quick judgments based on instinct and experience. System 2, on the other hand, is slow, deliberate, and analytical. It requires conscious effort and is essential for making complex, high-stakes decisions. While System 1 can be a great asset for making quick, everyday choices, it's also prone to cognitive biases like overconfidence, anchoring, or making snap judgments based on limited information. These biases can cloud our judgment and steer us toward decisions that feel right in the moment, but may not hold up under scrutiny. System 2, however, is more rational and thorough, which makes it essential for avoiding those blind spots. For major decisions, being able to recognize when to switch from System 1 to System 2 can help us make choices that are well considered and stand up to critical analysis. A fantastic example of balancing intuition and analysis in decision-making is Jeff Bezos's regret minimization framework. When Bezos was contemplating leaving his stable Wall Street job to start Amazon, he used this framework to weigh the risks and benefits. Essentially, he imagined himself at 80, looking back on his life, and asked, "Will I regret not having tried this?" This approach helped him shift his perspective from immediate risks, like the security of his current job, to the long-term regret he might feel if he didn't pursue his vision. The regret minimization framework combines intuitive insight with a thoughtful, analytical approach, allowing Bezos to make a life-changing decision that felt true to his values. By framing the decision around future regret, he connected with what mattered most to him, using System 1 intuition to identify his values, and then turning to System 2 analysis to evaluate the feasibility of launching Amazon. Jeff Bezos' decision to leave a high-paying job for an uncertain startup wasn't just impulsive. It was grounded in both intuition and analysis. The regret minimization framework is a powerful example of how intuitive thinking can help us identify our values, while System 2 analysis helps us examine the decision logically. By balancing the two, we can make decisions that are both personally meaningful and strategically sound. For a small business perspective, let's look at a local bakery that faced a decision about expanding their product line. The bakery was known for its pastries and breads, but during the pandemic, demand shifted as customers wanted more home meal options. The bakery owner considered adding savoury items like quiches and soups, but was unsure if this shift would benefit the business or dilute the brand. In weighing this decision, the bakery owner tapped into System 1 intuition, asking herself, "What do I know about my customers' preferences, and what do I sense is missing?" She sensed a need for more variety and meals to go based on customer feedback. But then she switched to System 2, conducting a cost-benefit analysis to assess the financial and operational implications of expanding. She consulted staff, reviewed costs, and ultimately decided to test a limited menu of savoury options. The result? The new items were a hit, bringing in more foot traffic and increasing customer loyalty. This decision combined intuition about her customer base with analytical planning, allowing the bakery to adapt successfully. For leaders in small businesses, a useful approach is to start with your intuitive gut check about what feels right based on your knowledge of the business and customers, and then back it up with data and analysis. By balancing intuition with a structured review of the costs and potential benefits, you can make decisions that are both responsive and well-informed. A key aspect of effective decision-making is knowing when to shift from intuitive System 1 thinking to analytical System 2 thinking. For routine or low-risk choices, relying on intuition can be efficient and effective. But for complex or high-stakes decisions, taking a more structured approach helps reduce the influence of biases. One strategy is to recognize decision triggers, moments where the stakes are high or the decision has long-term implications. When these triggers come up, it's a good time to call in System 2 to analyze options, weigh risks, and consider long-term impacts. This shift is especially helpful in fast-paced business environments where leaders must balance quick judgments with sound analysis. An example of recognizing when to switch from intuitive to analytical thinking comes from Nike's pivot to digital sales. Traditionally, Nike had relied heavily on physical retail partnerships, but as consumer behavior shifted toward online shopping, Nike's leaders faced the decision to prioritize direct-to-consumer DTC, digital sales. Initially, Nike's leaders could have relied on intuition, believing that physical retail was still the most reliable avenue. But recognizing the high stakes of this decision, they brought in System 2 thinking. Nike's team analyzed detailed data on digital trends, customer behavior, and growth projections for e-commerce. This data-driven approach led Nike to prioritize online and app-based sales, ultimately helping the brand reach new customers and increase profits during a time of retail disruption. When facing a major decision, identify any potential biases or assumptions and make a conscious effort to examine them. Ask yourself questions like, am I relying too much on past experience? Or have I considered all available data? Switching to System 2, thinking can give you a clearer, more objective view of your options. Another small business example is a boutique fitness studio that was deciding whether to adopt virtual classes during the pandemic. The owner initially hesitated, relying on intuition that the in-studio experience couldn't be replicated online. But when customer inquiries for virtual options continued, the owner recognized this as a high-stakes decision that required deeper analysis. The studio owner shifted to System 2 thinking, conducting surveys to understand customer demand, researching virtual class platforms, and analyzing the costs and potential revenue. Based on this analysis, they decided to offer a trial series of virtual classes, which became so popular that it now accounts for a significant portion of their revenue. This example highlights how even smaller businesses can benefit from knowing when to transition from gut feeling to a more data-driven approach in decision-making. For small businesses, using a simple survey or a limited pilot program can be a great way to test the waters on a decision. Gathering customer feedback and assessing financial impact in a structured way helps you make informed choices that reflect both intuition and analysis. Think of System 1 and System 2 as two gears on a bike. Sometimes you need the speed of an easy, quick pedal, and other times you need the power of a harder push. Knowing when to switch gears keeps you moving forward smoothly. In summary, understanding when to use fast, intuitive thinking and when to shift to slow, analytical thinking can make a huge difference in your decision-making. Jeff Bezos's regret minimization framework, the bakery's product expansion, Nike's pivot to digital, and the fitness studio's virtual class adoption all show that combining intuition with structured analysis allows leaders to make confident, well-reasoned choices. By recognizing the strengths and limitations of both systems, we can navigate complex decisions with clarity and purpose. Now we'll discuss how to identify and manage biases in decision-making, using critical thinking to ensure your choices are as objective and informed as possible. Stay tuned as we continue exploring these essential strategies for decision-making and risk management. A major challenge in decision-making is recognizing and managing cognitive biases. In Thinking Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman explains how our brains rely on shortcuts or biases to make decisions quickly. While these shortcuts can be useful in simple situations, they can also cloud our judgment and lead to faulty conclusions. Common biases include anchoring, where we rely too heavily on the first piece of information, confirmation bias, favoring information that supports our existing beliefs, and overconfidence, thinking we know more than we actually do. These biases often occur without us realizing it, making it crucial to use critical thinking, actively questioning our assumptions, seeking diverse perspectives, and examining evidence from all sides. One company known for managing biases effectively is Intuit, the maker of TurboTax and QuickBooks. Intuit's Design for Delight culture encourages employees to challenge assumptions, test new ideas, and actively seek feedback. This approach keeps teams from relying too heavily on initial ideas or falling into confirmation bias by favoring only data that supports their assumptions. For example, when Intuit was developing QuickBooks Self-Employed, the team had various ideas about which features would be most valuable to freelancers. Rather than assuming they already had the answers, they ran experiments to test different features, allowing customer feedback and data to shape the product. By prioritizing experimentation and challenging their assumptions, Intuit avoided anchoring bias and created a product that truly met customer needs. Intuit's example shows that when we actively question our assumptions, we're less likely to fall into biases. By approaching decisions with a mindset of experimentation and being open to different perspectives, we can create solutions that are informed by real data, not just our initial beliefs. For a small business example, let's look at a local coffee shop that wanted to expand its customer base by offering seasonal drink specials. The owner initially thought that print ads in local magazines would be the best way to promote the specials, as it had worked in the past. But before investing in the ads, they paused to consider whether this assumption was biased by past success, which is a form of anchoring bias. The coffee shop's team decided to test their assumption by running small social media ads and offering promotions through local influencers to see if digital marketing might be more effective. They found that the online ads brought in more customers for a fraction of the cost of print ads. By questioning their initial assumption and running a test, the coffee shop avoided anchoring on past experience and discovered a new, cost-effective strategy for reaching customers. For small business leaders, challenging assumptions doesn't have to be complex. When you're about to make a decision based on past experience, ask yourself, is there a newer or alternative approach I could test? Running a small test can help you validate ideas objectively before committing to a full-scale change. Critical thinking is essential for spotting biases and making well-rounded decisions. One effective strategy is to seek diverse perspectives, especially from people who don't have a stake in the outcome or who bring a different viewpoint. This can help us identify potential blind spots, reduce confirmation bias, and challenge our assumptions. Another critical thinking technique is to ask, what evidence would change my mind? This question helps us move beyond confirmation bias by focusing on data that might challenge our beliefs rather than just reinforce them. By actively seeking out information that doesn't support our initial thinking, we're better able to assess decisions from all angles. At Microsoft, CEO Satya Nadella has championed the importance of diversity and inclusion as a way to improve decision-making. Microsoft's teams are encouraged to seek input from diverse voices, both within the organization and from customers. This approach is especially valuable for reducing biases, as it brings in perspectives that team members might not have considered. For example, when developing new accessibility features for their software, Microsoft actively seeks feedback from users with disabilities. This input helps them challenge any biases they might have about usability and ensures that the product meets the needs of a wide range of users. By involving diverse perspectives, Microsoft avoids biases like groupthink and develops products that are more inclusive and effective. To think critically and manage biases, consider including people with different backgrounds, experiences, or roles in your decision-making process. Diverse perspectives can highlight blind spots you might miss on your own, leading to better informed choices. For another small business example, let's look at a boutique retail store that sells curated, high-end clothing. The store owner, after experiencing a successful quarter, wanted to expand the product line significantly. Feeling optimistic, they planned to order large quantities of new items, assuming demand would continue to rise. This is a classic example of overconfidence bias, where past success leads us to overestimate future demand. However, the owner decided to take a step back and consult the store's employees, who directly interacted with customers and understood their preferences. The team suggested running a limited release of new items to gauge interest before committing to larger orders. By challenging the initial assumption and using a more measured approach, the boutique avoided overconfidence bias and gathered real data on customer demand. For small business owners, it's easy to get excited by recent success, but taking a step back and consulting others can provide a reality check. Running a limited trial or getting input from people with on-the-ground experience can help you avoid overconfidence and make more balanced decisions. Think of cognitive biases like optical illusions for the mind. Sometimes we're so sure of what we see that we don't realize it's all a trick of perception. By stepping back and questioning what we see, we can avoid being misled by our own brains. In summary, recognizing and managing cognitive biases is essential for objective decision-making. Intuit's experimentation culture, the coffee shop's testing of marketing tactics, Microsoft's commitment to diverse perspectives, and the boutique store's reality check all show us that by questioning assumptions, seeking different viewpoints, and testing ideas, we can avoid common biases and make more informed choices. Next, we'll dive into the art of assessing risk, exploring strategies for evaluating high-stakes decisions and understanding the level of risk involved. Stay tuned as we continue exploring essential skills for effective decision-making and risk management. Another crucial part of effective decision-making is assessing risk. Every choice we make carries a certain level of risk, and part of good leadership is learning how to evaluate those risks thoughtfully. In Thinking Fast and Slow, Kahneman explains that people often make decisions based on immediate rewards or short-term thinking without fully considering potential downsides. But by understanding both the likelihood and impact of different outcomes, we can approach decisions with our eyes wide open. When assessing risk, it's helpful to think about decisions on a spectrum: low-risk decisions that are easily reversible, moderate-risk decisions that require some planning, and high-risk decisions that carry significant consequences. High-stakes decisions require more time, information, and deliberation, while low-risk decisions can often be made quickly and adapted along the way. A well-known risk assessment framework used at Amazon is Jeff Bezos's two-way door decision-making model. Bezos encourages his teams to categorize decisions as either one-way doors or two-way doors. A one-way door is a high-stakes, irreversible decision that requires careful thought and planning. A two-way door, on the other hand, is a reversible choice that can be quickly tested and adjusted as needed. For example, when Amazon was deciding to expand into grocery delivery, they recognized it as a one-way door, a big commitment that would require significant resources and planning. But smaller decisions within that project, like testing new delivery options, were two-way doors that could be quickly tested and adjusted. This approach enables Amazon to make informed choices without overanalyzing every decision. By understanding the level of risk associated with each choice, they can move quickly on low-stakes decisions while dedicating more time to high-stakes ones. Amazon's approach shows that not all decisions need the same level of scrutiny. By categorizing choices as either reversible or irreversible, you can decide when it's worth taking the time to gather more data and when it's best to act quickly and learn along the way. For a small business perspective, let's look at a local gym that faced a big decision during the pandemic: whether to pivot to offering online classes. This was a high-stakes choice for the gym, as investing in online streaming technology, marketing, and instructor training would require significant upfront costs. The owner categorized this as a high-risk decision because it wasn't easily reversible, and they needed to be sure it would bring value to customers. To assess the risk, the owner ran a survey to gauge interest among their members and studied other gyms' successes and failures with online classes. After gathering enough information to feel confident, they went ahead with the pivot. The decision ultimately paid off, expanding their customer base and increasing engagement. This example illustrates that even small businesses can assess risk effectively by gathering information and considering customer needs. For small businesses, when facing a high-risk decision, start by gathering as much relevant information as possible. Surveying customers, analyzing competitors, or running a pilot test can give you the insight you need to make a well-informed choice, even if the decision has significant consequences. There are various tools that can help you assess risk more systematically. Cost-benefit analysis is a straightforward way to weigh the potential benefits of a decision against its costs. By comparing the financial, operational, and time costs of each option with its expected benefits, you can get a clearer picture of the risks involved. Another useful tool is scenario planning, thinking through different possible outcomes and creating plans for each. Scenario planning is especially valuable for high-stakes decisions, as it helps you anticipate potential challenges and prepare solutions in advance. By considering both best-case and worst-case scenarios, you're better equipped to handle whatever comes your way. Intel is a great example of a company that uses scenario planning to manage risk. In the fast-paced tech industry, where new innovations can make products obsolete quickly, Intel uses scenario planning to prepare for different market conditions. For instance, when planning a new processor, Intel might create scenarios based on competitors' potential product launches, customer demand shifts, and economic changes. By developing strategies for each scenario, Intel's leaders are prepared to pivot if necessary, reducing the risk of being caught off guard by a sudden market change. This proactive approach helps them stay competitive, even in a volatile industry. To try scenario planning, consider creating a few potential future situations for your business, such as a high-growth scenario, a moderate growth scenario, and a low-growth or challenging scenario. Outline a plan for each, so you're prepared for both the best and worst outcomes. This exercise helps clarify potential risks and ensures you're not caught off guard. Another small business example is a restaurant deciding whether to expand its menu. Expanding the menu can attract new customers, but it also introduces risks like increased ingredient costs and the potential for longer wait times. The restaurant owner decided to assess the risks by conducting a cost-benefit analysis. They calculated the expected additional revenue from the new menu items against the increased cost of ingredients and the need for extra kitchen staff. They also ran a limited-time trial of the new menu items to gauge customer interest before making a full commitment. By assessing the costs and benefits and using a small-scale test, they were able to expand their menu confidently and without undue risk. For small businesses, cost-benefit analysis can be an invaluable tool for assessing risk. Calculate the potential costs and benefits, and if possible, test the waters with a limited trial. This approach allows you to evaluate the impact of your decision on a smaller scale before committing fully. Think of risk assessment like testing the water before diving into a pool. A quick check can save you from an icy plunge or a painful belly flop. In summary, assessing risk thoughtfully is key to making confident, informed decisions. Jeff Bezos' two-way door framework, the gym's pivot to online classes, Intel's scenario planning, and the restaurant's cost-benefit analysis all demonstrate that by evaluating the impact and reversibility of decisions, gathering relevant data, and preparing for different scenarios, leaders can make decisions that balance bold action with thoughtful planning. Now we'll discuss how using decision-making frameworks can help you stay objective, organize your thoughts, and ultimately make better choices. Stick around as we continue exploring essential skills for decision-making and risk management. To make clear, objective decisions, many leaders rely on decision-making frameworks. Frameworks give us a structured approach to evaluate options, weigh risks, and pinpoint the most viable choices without getting bogged down in details or emotions. When facing complex decisions, frameworks can help us stay grounded, especially in high-stakes situations. One classic example is the cost-benefit analysis, a method for weighing the potential advantages of a choice against its costs. Another is the SWOT analysis, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. SWOT can help you assess internal and external factors that could impact your decision. Decision trees are also popular because they allow you to map out potential outcomes and visualize different paths forward. Let's revisit Jeff Bezos's two-way door framework at Amazon. This approach is both a risk assessment and a decision-making framework. By categorizing decisions as either one-way, irreversible, or two-way, reversible, Amazon's leaders can focus more time and resources on big decisions while moving quickly on smaller, lower-stakes ones. The two-way door framework is especially helpful for organizations that want to stay agile. When Amazon decides to test a new product or enter a new market, it's treated as a two-way door, meaning they can adapt or reverse the decision if needed. This framework has allowed Amazon to experiment frequently without the fear of permanent consequences, keeping their culture of innovation strong and their decision-making efficient. Amazon's framework shows us that not every decision requires full analysis. By categorizing choices based on their reversibility, you can make quicker, less risky decisions when appropriate and reserve detailed analysis for the more consequential choices. This keeps your team focused on making bold, creative moves without getting stuck in over-analysis. For a small business example, let's look at a local cafe considering expanding into catering services. The cafe owner was enthusiastic about this opportunity, but also aware of the challenges involved, so they decided to use a SWOT analysis to guide their decision. They started by identifying the cafe's strengths, like a loyal customer base and experienced staff, and weaknesses, limited kitchen space and equipment. Next, they looked at opportunities, such as increased revenue from catering events, and threats, including the competition from established catering businesses. Through this process, they realized they needed additional equipment and hired part-time help to meet demand. The SWOT analysis provided a balanced view of the pros and cons, helping them plan for growth while managing risks. If you're considering a major change, like expanding services, a SWOT analysis is a straightforward way to evaluate all sides of the decision. By listing out strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, you gain a clearer picture of how prepared you are to take on the new venture and what you might need to address before moving forward. Another effective decision-making tool is the cost-benefit analysis. This method involves comparing the potential benefits of a decision against its costs, helping you understand whether the expected returns justify the resources. Cost-benefit analysis can be especially useful when resources are tight, as it provides a clear picture of which options are most likely to bring value. By using this framework, leaders can make more objective choices, free from emotional attachment to one idea or another. It's especially helpful for small businesses or startups with limited resources, as it ensures that each investment is carefully weighed against potential gains. At Google, teams often use cost-benefit analysis during product development, especially when deciding which features to prioritize. For example, when developing the first Google Maps app, the team weighed the costs of adding certain features, like real-time traffic updates and satellite views, against the anticipated impact on user engagement. By conducting a thorough cost-benefit analysis, they determined which features would have the most positive impact, allowing them to create a highly functional app without overextending resources. This disciplined approach to resource allocation has allowed Google to prioritize features that provide real value to users, rather than overwhelming them with options. The result was a streamlined, user-focused product that became an essential tool for millions of users worldwide. To try cost-benefit analysis in your own team, start by listing out the potential benefits and costs of each option you're considering. Quantify the costs and benefits wherever possible, and compare to see which choice gives you the best return on investment. This approach is invaluable for prioritizing initiatives and keeping your focus on what will truly drive results. Another small business example comes from a local florist who wanted to introduce new delivery options. Faced with choices like same-day delivery, subscription services, and partnerships with delivery apps, they used a decision tree to map out each option and its potential outcomes. The florist began by listing each delivery option as a branch on the tree. From there, they mapped out the possible results, like increased revenue, additional staffing needs, and customer satisfaction levels. They used this visualization to weigh the pros and cons of each option, ultimately choosing a subscription service which had moderate risk but high potential for recurring revenue. The decision tree framework allowed them to see each option clearly and confidently make a choice that aligned with their goals. If you're facing a complex decision with multiple paths, try drawing a decision tree. This tool helps you visualize each option's potential outcomes, allowing you to weigh the risks and benefits systematically. By mapping it out, you're less likely to overlook any key factors, making it easier to reach a well-rounded decision. To wrap up, decision-making frameworks offer valuable structure, helping us stay objective and focused, especially in complex situations. Jeff Bezos' two-way door framework, the cafe's SWOT analysis for expansion, Google's cost-benefit approach to product features, and the florist's decision tree for delivery options all show us that by using frameworks, we can avoid emotional decisions, stay organized, and make choices that are grounded in data. Now, I'll recap this episode with actionable takeaways to help you improve your own decision-making and risk management practices. Stick around as we close with practical steps you can apply in your leadership journey. As we wrap up on this episode on decision-making and risk management, let's quickly review the key strategies we discussed. Effective decision-making is about striking a balance between intuition and analysis, recognizing and managing biases, assessing risks carefully, and using structured frameworks to guide us. When we approach decision-making with intention and clarity, we're not only more likely to make good choices, but also to create a culture that supports smart, collaborative decision-making. So, a recap of key takeaways. 1. Understand how we make decisions. Be mindful of when to rely on fast, intuitive thinking, System 1, and when to switch to slow, analytical thinking, System 2. Jeff Bezos' regret minimization framework and the local bakery's product expansion example show us the importance of balancing instinct with thoughtful analysis. 2. Manage bias and think critically. Recognize that cognitive biases like overconfidence, confirmation bias, and anchoring can cloud our judgment. Intuit's culture of experimentation, Microsoft's inclusion of diverse perspectives, and the coffee shop's marketing test demonstrate the power of challenging assumptions and embracing a culture of curiosity and learning. 3. Assess risk and make informed choices. Every decision carries some level of risk, and it's essential to evaluate both the potential rewards and possible downsides. Amazon's two-way door framework, Intel's scenario planning, and the restaurant's cost-benefit analysis all highlight the value of categorizing decisions by risk level and using data to make informed choices. 4. Use decision-making frameworks to stay objective. Frameworks like SWOT analysis, cost-benefit analysis, and decision trees help guide complex choices by providing a clear structure for weighing options. By using these tools, as demonstrated by Amazon, Google, a local cafe, and a florist, leaders can stay grounded, organized, and focused on solutions that align with their goals. If there's one thing to take away, it's that decision-making doesn't have to be overwhelming or stressful. By applying these tools and strategies, whether it's managing biases, assessing risks, or using decision-making frameworks, you can make choices that are both intentional and well-informed. Leaders who approach decisions thoughtfully inspire their teams to do the same, creating a culture where people feel empowered to make smart, collaborative decisions. Remember, decision-making is less about getting it perfect and more about making progress. Every choice we make is a step forward, teaching us something new and moving us closer to our goals. As the saying goes, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So take that step, trust your process, and know that each decision brings you closer to the future you're creating. Think of each decision as a small part of a larger puzzle. Some pieces fit right in, and others take a few tries, but each one gets you closer to the big picture. Just remember to step back, see the whole puzzle, and enjoy the process. Before we go, I'd love to hear from you. How do you approach decision making in your own team? Do you have a favorite framework or strategy? Share your thoughts in the comments or tag us on social media with #TheBusinessBookClub. Your stories and insights could be exactly what another leader needs to hear. Thank you for joining me today on Leadership Unpacked. In the next episode, we'll be exploring the topic of imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is the feeling that you're somehow faking it or don't truly deserve your achievements, even when there's plenty of evidence that says otherwise. It's especially common among high achievers, so please do check it out. Until next time, keep making clear, confident decisions, and remember, progress over perfection. Thanks for tuning in.